of the great traditions of commencement is the keynote address. It is an opportunity to hear from someone whose achievements and words inspire us all. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct privilege to introduce you to our distinguished commencement speaker, Dr. Bruce Corsino. Dr. Corsino holds graduate degrees from Florida Tech and Harvard University. He was on staff at a variety of medical centers and is the founder and president of Bioethics Incorporated, a retired Army colonel from the U.S. Army Medical Department, a university professor, and an official United States plain language expert. Dr. Corsino has served as a member and chairperson of hospital ethics and human subject research committees, as well as a contributor to federal and state health ethics policies. His work has been presented on television, public radio, and publications such as the Journal of Clinical Ethics, Harvard Magazine, U.S. Medicine, and the Washington Post. He has spoken at health, educational, and business institutions worldwide, including the United Nations and European Commission. Bruce is both a friend of UMTC and mine personally, and we look forward to your remarks.
Thank you, Jim, Mr. President, faculty, staff. It's a great privilege to be here, especially with graduates, families, and friends. I'm honored to be with you today. I usually try to start and end with the conclusion. So my conclusion is, number one, these are two things, and I apologize if they sound familiar if you've heard them before, but for me they still ring true. Number one is, try to do what you love. Number two, there are angels out there, which means smart, caring, wonderful people who are willing to help and be part of your life. Try to find and connect with those angels because they are out there. I had a lot of angels in my life. I grew up poor as a kind of a street kid in a small town about 90 miles outside of New York City. Now, there is no doubt that in those days, the teachers and other people in the community, when they thought of me, were saying things like, you know that Corsino kid? Well, he seems bright enough, but let's face it, he could go either way. Huh? You know. The only way I survived that street life that I had as a kid was because I had a few angels in my life. I had a mother and other people in the community who gave me every opportunity to experience and see the world as a great place that I wanted to be part of. And I am eternally grateful to those people. They changed my life. I was lucky to get probably the last available spot at the State University. And I graduated. And then I did what I'm telling you to do. Do what you love and follow your heart. That's what I did. And in those days, my dream was to enter the field of music. So I moved to Boston. And I started in a Doctor of Music program. Now, the other students who were around me, it was a shock to me. Because these were people, they could listen to the Brahms No. 2 piano concerto or any kind of music. And then they could go to the piano and sit down and play it. I was quite stunned, but there are people like that who exist. At some point, though, I had to ask myself, do I have that kind of talent and motivation? Yes, I can stay here, I can work at it for 5 years, but in the end, is it going to give me the kind of professional success and happiness that I need in my life? That's why I eventually had to make a strategic decision. And I walked into the dean's office and I said, thank you very much for the opportunity that you've given me here. but it is my choice that I will not be returning. Thank you very much. So, what that means is that my first career job as a young adult was as a graduate school dropout. That was my first job. Combing the streets of Boston looking for every odd job that I could find. I was very lucky to get a small kind of menial position at a university that was there in Boston. It came with one great benefit. They let me take free courses. So I enrolled. Now, toward the end of that first semester, I went up to the professor and I said, you come to the university a couple of days a week. You teach students. You have that kind of fun and excitement. Then you have a big lab downstairs for a couple of days a week. You do research. And then you go for a couple of days a week out to the hospital and you treat patients. I said, you have an interesting life. I want you alive. Luckily, he turned out to be an angel. Right? He invited me to his house, and he gave me a roadmap for how to be a doctor of psychology. So I was lucky. This means that the one main reason I was able to get back on the road to life was because I met this single angel. Very important. Now keep in mind, this professor also took me aside and he said, Bruce, let's be honest. You've got a problem. I said, okay, what's my problem? And he went on to say, look, the doctoral programs you want to get into, they accept 4 students for every 100 people who apply. And he went on to say, when I look at your undergraduate transcript, you only took 1 course in psychology, and you got a D. Okay? So, for you to have any hope of getting in to accomplish your goals, what you need is a master's degree from Harvard with good grades, and then you can apply to a doctoral program. Now, that sounds like, simple enough. But the next question on my mind is, how do I get into Harvard? Didn't have the answer to that question. So he said, look, there's no guarantees. What you do is, go over, tell them your story, see what happens. So that's what I did. I made an appointment with the department, with the admissions office, and I talked to people. I went over there, I took the bus across the river to Harvard, and I went for my appointments. And when I showed up, I showed them my D in psychology on my transcript and my history of dropping out of graduate school. And then I said, look, I think that I want to be a productive member of society, and I believe that I can produce good things. I have a plan for that, but I need your help. Luckily, again, there were a few more angels at the school who eventually said, Bruce, we think we have some options for you. So I was lucky. I got in, I graduated, and went on, moved on elsewhere to do my doctoral degree. I completed my residency. And then I took my first job. I was age 29, and I was chief of psychology and behavioral medicine at Reynolds Army Hospital in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Right? Sounds like a pretty good deal. Now, who knew that about 5 years after doing that kind of work, I slowly began to realize in my head that the world of depression and anxiety and suicide might not quite be the party that I imagined it would be and hoped for. So, what truly believed that that job would give me a lifetime of satisfying work. But I misjudged, right? So, anyway, let's do an inventory of where I am at that point. I'm not getting any younger. I'm already 35 years old. And I've already been given 2 decent chances, one in music and one in psychology, to carve out a satisfying work life for myself and to follow my dream and do what I want to do and do what I love. What happened? I messed it up both times. What are you going to do? Right? These things sometimes happen. Sometimes you don't exactly know what a job is going to be until you're actually in there doing it. It happens. The only way I recovered from that mess was, of course, another angel. At the time, I was working in a hospital out in California at Stanford, and I walked into the chief of staff's office and I told him my story. Luckily, he said to me, "You know, Bruce, we've got a new position here coming up for somebody to do medical ethics and bioethics. You might be a good fit for that. Why don't we send you for some training? And then you can try it out and see what you think." So, nowadays every hospital has a bioethics person to sort out all kinds of problems. But for me, that job was the ultimate formula for a happy work life. That's because every single day I went to work, I felt 2 things. Number 1, that I used my creative ability to its fullest potential. And number 2, that every day I had the chance to actually improve somebody's life. So as it turns out, those are the only 2 things I ever needed to be happy in my work life. I did that job for more than 15 years, and I assure you, never once did it actually feel like work. I feel very lucky for that. So, to summarize, number 1, do what you love. Now, obviously, in my case, I had a lot of what we call false starts out of the gate. So this idea of do what you love makes a lot more sense if you love lots of different things. Right? It worked out for me. Number 2, my life was definitely punctuated by one encounter after another with angels who helped me. So try to find and connect with those angels. If you can, try to be an angel yourself to somebody. Right? Please let me conclude with one final thought. For as long as I've known the University of Maryland, which is now about 50 years, it has been the icon of American education available globally. UMGC doesn't just say global. Your presence here today and in places around the world means UMGC really is global. It's a wonderful thing. This means that name recognition that you get with your diploma from this university is unmatched. Name recognition. What's the other important factor? Reputation. Now, when I was a working person, full time, I had to hire people all the way from interns all the way up to professional staff with a variety of different positions. When a UMGC person walked into the office, they had an advantage in my mind. Why? Because in most cases, they came from less traditional backgrounds. They followed their own unique timeline to get their education. Because of that, they typically worked a bit hard to graduate, and they wanted it more. These things matter. Number 2, secondly, knowing how to multitask and juggle things and cope with change are very important skills in life and in the workplace. In most cases, the UMGC graduates already have those skills built in because they have a history of juggling and managing their kids, their parents, their work, and all kinds of other things all at the same time. I believe that reputation is when people have these good ideas about you and UMGC graduates before you even walk through the door. That's reputation. Name recognition and reputation are priceless commodities. And that's some of what you get when you walk out of here today with your diplomas. So thank you. Congratulations. Be proud, and please give yourselves a round of applause.
Thank you very